And now we'll move to Q&A.
Absolutely.
Now, we are designing the Cybertruck to meet the American spec, because if you try to design a car to meet the global, the superset of all global requirements, it basically, you can't make the Cybertruck. It's impossible. Well, actually, so there's a lot of companies in China that I think are doing great work with electric vehicles and also with stationary storage. Although we don't see that much in the US yet, but I think probably we will in the future.
And for miners, I think we are incentivizing them quite a bit to ramp up their production.
Yeah. And actually, we had good calls. Like, they're all motivated. I think that they've been sort of sitting back being like, are you going to grow like crazy? And we're like, yeah, we're going to grow like crazy. And then I think this indicates we're going to grow like crazy. And that's what the miners want to hear. And then they'll go make the investments.
We do want to try to make the price as competitive as we can without like losing money. And if you lose money, then if you keep losing money, you'll just die. So we have to. This thing called profit is just like we need to bring in more money than we spend. Otherwise, we're dead.
Tesla Throwback Thursday. Today we're going to close out Battery Day 2020. This is Part C, but if you need Part A, Part B, they'll be somewhere around, and if you need to, it'll definitely be at the end of the video, but click on whatever you'd like. This will be the coveted Q&A portion of Battery Day. What were the questions on minds of investors back in 2020? More importantly, what were the answers that Tesla gave? Without further ado, let's get to it.
And now we'll move to Q&A.
Absolutely.
We don't have a name for the $25,000 car yet.
It's a great question, though.
Model 2, that seems to be the consensus, but I believe the Robotaxi might go under a different name. But 2S3XY, that's too sexy.
Yes, we will be manufacturing cells in Berlin. Yep.
Thermal management system? For homes.
Oh, you mean like the home HVAC? And that's a pet project that I'd love to get going on. Start working on that next year. Because I just think man, you could really make a way better home HVAC system that's really quiet and super efficient. A way better filter, for particles, and works very reliably. And we've already developed that for the car. Like, so the heat pump in the Model Y is really pretty spectacular. I mean, it's tiny, it's efficient. It has to last for 15 years. It's got to work in all kinds of conditions, from the coldest winter to the hottest summer. So we've actually already done a massive amount of the work necessary for a really kick-ass home HVAC. And they can also like stack them. So if you want to say, depending upon the size of your house or whatever, how much you need, you can just basically stack them, and just have a very compelling, super efficient home HVAC. And then you can also communicate with the car, and it'll know when you're coming home. So it's like, oh, I don't need to keep the house cold all day. I just cool it down because I knew you were coming home.
I can't wait for this product to be in actualization. It would complete my home. Solar on the roof, car in the garage, HVAC system, all of it communicating with each other, stacking them like power walls. Oh my word, I will be first in line for this product.
Fun product.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of car camping in my Tesla with my dream case, like my all-time favorite activity. Is it going to be possible to get climate control to the back of the Cybertruck? Because that would be the ultimate camping machine if we can get all-night climate control.
We'll try to do that. Yeah. I agree. That would be really cool.
No pun intended. Specs for the Cybertruck seem to be leaking daily as we approach the delivery event. With Tesla's ability to do over-the-air software updates, I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to release some surprises for Cybertruck owners.
What does the ICE industry look like for in the future?
Well, I don't think there will be an ICE industry long term.
Preach. Within a decade, it'll be much less profitable to make and sell internal combustion engines. Once they stop doing that, it's just a matter of time before they're all off the roads.
I mean, well, I guess there might be like a few things that are like, it's a like curious thing. Like, I mean, there's still like some steam engines made somewhere, but like they're just basically sort of quirky collector's items. I mean, that will be the future of the internal combustion engine car.
Curious about Cybertruck. It was interesting to see where you had it in on the battery technology front. I'm sort of curious what you see for it in the production front. Is its volume, trucks are so popular in America, do you see its volume equaling the 3 or the Y in the future?
Well, it's hard to say what the volume exactly would be for the Cybertruck. The orders are gigantic. So we have like, I don't know, well over 500,000 orders. I think maybe 600,000. That's a lot, basically. We stopped counting. I think there's probably room for, I don't know, at least like a unit volume of like 250 to 300,000 a year, maybe more. Now, we are designing the Cybertruck to meet the American spec, because if you try to design a car to meet the global, the superset of all global requirements, it basically, you can't make the Cybertruck. It's impossible. It really is designed for the American market, but this is the biggest market. Our North American market is the biggest market for pickup trucks by far, or large pickup trucks. And then I think we'll probably make an international version of the Cybertruck that'll be kind of smaller, kind of like a tight Wolverine package. It'll still be cooler, but it'll be smaller, because you just can't make a giant truck like that for most markets.
What I'm most curious about, these innovations are incredible, but on my drive up here, fully on autopilot for 400 miles, the entire state is brown, and this is ultimately about climate. Has there been some analysis done if all these things are achieved? What will its direct impact be on climate?
I think it will have a very significant impact, because it will stop the CO2 ppm from growing as it is every year. I try to view the whole climate thing as a science question as much as possible. Science, you always question your hypothesis. Is it true? Is it not true? Or assign a probability to a given hypothesis. And I should say that my original interest in electric vehicles predates the climate issue. When I was in high school, I thought, man, if we don't figure out electric cars, the whole economy is going to collapse when we run out of oil.
That's right, people. Oil is a finite resource. Sure, we're fine now, but what's it look like in 2050? Are we just going to fight devastating wars for the last bits of Texas tea? That make no sense.
Sustainable energy or civilization is going to crumble. And then it was only kind of later that the significance of the climate risk became apparent. Also able, using fracking and other types of technology, to access a lot more fossil fuels than previously thought. Helpful for lowering the cost of gasoline, but it's pretty bad for the total tonnage of CO2 that you could put in the atmosphere. It's now greatly beyond what people previously thought. It is a absolutely monumental task to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. The entire global economy is still, more than 99% dependent on, or roughly 99% dependent on fossil fuels. So although electric cars kind of get a lot of press right now, they're still, and there's still very few, as a percentage of the total global fleet, is practically nothing. I would say, yes, less than 1% of the global fleet is electric right now. So there's a massive amount of work ahead. Just insane, hard to comprehend how much work is ahead to get the new vehicle production to be sustainable, to massively increase the amount of stationary storage, which is critical because renewable energy is intermittent. Wind and solar is intermittent. Sometimes the wind doesn't blow, and obviously the sun doesn't shine at night. So you got to have batteries. A massive, massive number of batteries.
It's hard to measure in direct impact, but it's an experiment that we shouldn't be performing. And the sooner we can sort of end the experiment, the sooner we can kind of move on in a fully sustainable way that is actually lower cost. I think the thing that people haven't fully internalized is once we do get to the 25K car, the ownership cost of that car is incredibly lower than the prior car. And then on the solar side and wind, with the cost of solar and wind coming down and with batteries coming down with them, the actual cost of energy on the grid is going down. So we're sort of moving towards a sustainable, lower cost future. So there's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. It is a false dichotomy to say that it's either prosperity or sustainability. This is often used, by oil and gas to say oh, well, do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want lower people's standards of living? Do you want to, make all these economic sacrifices? Really, in order to have sustainability? And the reality, as Drew was saying, is that a sustainable energy is going to be lower cost, not higher cost, than fossil fuels.
We can't stay on oil and gas forever. Finite resources that people will die for. But it's not one or the other. We just need to get to sustainability before these resources get so scarce that people are willing to drop bombs on other people for them. There will be displacement, but it's a far cry better than World War III. Displacement we can anticipate and pivot. World War III, not so much.
the one company to go work for that's going to have the biggest structural impact over the next 10 years at scale, it's probably Tesla. So kudos to everyone at Tesla for what they've done to this point and going forward. The two questions for you, as you've looked at the auto and the storage markets, I know you've talked about it at kind of 50-50 long term, but it seems like a lot of the battery cost curve achievements that you've presented today really make some of these storage opportunities much more feasible over the next 5 years. And so I guess the first part of the question is, does your calculus upon learning and improving these things change on that 50-50 mix, or is there a role where storage becomes bigger? And then the second part of the question, with all these huge grand visions, who's going to be with Tesla from a corporate perspective accomplishing these things? Obviously, Tesla can't do it alone, but when you look at some of the traditional auto industry or power, et cetera, I don't see a lot of other Teslas.
Well, actually, so there's a lot of companies in China that I think are doing great work with electric vehicles and also with stationary storage. Although we don't see that much in the US yet, but I think probably we will in the future. I mean, obviously, we're doing everything we can to encourage other companies to move to sustainable transport and also, make stationary storage batteries, made our patents freely available, really try to tell these companies, hey, you really need to do this or you won't exist in the future. They don't believe it, So, I mean, we've talked until we're blue in the face. What are we supposed to do?
Shouldn't have to do too much more convincing, but this was 2020. Ford, GM, they still don't see the writing on the wall. You've got plenty of time. Don't worry about it. Delay your plans with battery electric vehicles. You're making so much money with hybrids, right? Right?
We really are hopeful that other companies will also do what we're doing, and that will make a sustainable future come sooner.
From a fundamental market size perspective, like we did the first ground up work to show the size of the market in terawatt hours, and they are roughly 50-50. 10 terawatt hours for transportation, 10 terawatt hours for the grid. And part of that is because the grid batteries, because when you're making a power plant, you're making a large investment, are 25-year assets or greater. If the grid batteries were 10-year kind of things, the grid market would be bigger, but because it's a longer duration asset, they're roughly the same size.
Thinking long term, is there any other segments that this new battery will be able to disrupt or electrify beyond just the initial Model 2 or cheaper sedan, like a boat, boring company loop, plane?
Where are you, Golly?
Are you
there?
What's up? Right here.
Okay, great.
It's
like
ventriloquism
ventriloquism here, It's like we just get the sound out of the speaker and you can't tell where the heck it's coming from.
Yeah, any hints, or is the Model 2 such a big deal because it decreases the cost of transportation that is really the disruption? Or should we get hyped that this new cost curve opens up different vehicle categories like a high passenger density bus, boring loop, boat, plane?
There are batteries in limited production right now that do exceed 400 watt-hours per kilogram, which I think is about the number you need for decent range, medium range aircraft. Batteries will, over time, start to approach the 400 watt-hours per kilogram range as well. Over time, we'll see all modes of transport, with the ironic exception of rockets, transition to sustainability.
I have a question in regards to the lithium and nickel industries and the likely price spikes and shortages of high-grade materials the EV industry is likely to see if they don't act fast to address future supply. Tesla have clearly made the right moves that are necessary, but there's a real worry that the potential supply issues and price spikes will create a drag on the rest of the EV industry and therefore a drag on global EV adoption. What advice would you give to the EV and mining industries to quickly solve this looming hurdles? Because for a sustainable energy future, the spice must flow. Thank you.
I'm not sure. I guess we can try to basically overdo it in cell production and perhaps supply cells to others. We do see the fundamental constraint as total cell production. That's why we're putting so much effort into making cells and kind of trying to reinvent every aspect of cell production from mining the ore to a complete battery pack. We're not getting into the cell business because we, just for the hell of it, it's because it's the fundamental constraint. It's the thing that is the limiting factor for rapid growth. We could certainly try to overdo it on cell production and perhaps sell cells to others. Although we are going at absolute top speed, so it's like, it's not like we're holding it back. I think like just making really efficient cars and have lower drag coefficient, low rolling resistance, efficient powertrains. I mean, that's kind of what we've done in order to make iron phosphate still have a good range. While there are some limitations on the total amount of nickel produced every year, there's really no limit on the iron. There's so much iron, it's ridiculous. You can really scale up iron phosphate, you know, at a raw materials basis faster, more than you can nickel.
When we were walking through this presentation, we intentionally separated all the different aspects. The benefits of structural battery apply to a iron-based cathode in the same way they apply to a nickel-based cathode.
Yeah.
So you get longer range iron-based vehicles, and also the silicon benefit can apply to the iron-based vehicles as well. So we can do a lot to extend the range of an iron-based vehicle, which is why it's a key part of the roadmap going forward. And then I invited Turner up here to talk about what the mining industry can do.
Diversification on the cathode side is obviously massive, and EVs are all about efficiency. And so for the EV industry, for the vehicle industry, we need to see powertrain efficiency really increase at all other companies matching Tesla powertrain efficiency, so that everyone can have that diversified cathode approach where LFP is used in medium range and even really make a 300-mile vehicle with LFP. And really the goal that we were trying to present here was a model for vertical integration, strategic vertical integration that a lot of different people can do. What we need to see is vertical integration that shortens the process path from mine to cathode. And you know what we're doing here is novel, and we're trying to push the industry in that direction. So you know we're presenting a model here that anyone can follow.
I think the key is to be smart about your chemistry choices. If you're smart about your materials choices, the spice will continue to flow. Yeah. You don't need to use the same kind everywhere. And for miners, I think we are incentivizing them quite a bit to ramp up their production.
Yeah, and actually we had good calls. Like they're all motivated. I think that they've been sort of sitting back being like, are you going to grow like crazy? And we're like, yeah, we're going to grow like crazy. And then I think this indicates we're going to grow like crazy, and that's what the miners want to hear, and then they'll go make the investments.
I was wondering, does Tesla have any future plans to make partnerships with music companies like it has done with 10-cent games or things like that, for you guys to actually kind of expand your services for artists and other types of creative people to get involved in, you know, producing content that can be part of the Tesla ecosystem, or so other people that do creative things can get involved with you guys?
We haven't really thought about that much, but I suppose it's probably something we should think about, generally trying to improve the entertainment experience in the cars. And I think actually, as we go to a more autonomous future, the importance of entertainment and productivity will become greater and greater. The first one I think we already answered. Like if we're able to make enough cells, which we'll try to do, or we will supply other companies. It's definitely not an intentional effort to keep the cells to ourselves. If we can make enough for other companies, we will supply them. And we're trying to do, the right thing for advancing the sustainable energy, whatever that is.
This is not about profit. Tesla could easily monopolize all of this, keep it to themselves, and grow battery electric vehicles, battery storage at their own pace. Have exceedingly high demand from here until 2050, but that's not the goal. The goal is to transition the world to a sustainable energy economy, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
I think one of the things that's important to note is the vehicle to grid. It doesn't, unless you have a power cutoff, like you need to cut off your main supply to the grid. Otherwise, if you lose the power in your house, you'll basically just backflow energy to the grid. So just having a reversal in the power flow does not actually keep the lights on. You need a whole separate system to cut off power to the grid. People really want the freedom to be able to drive and to charge at their house. And it's obviously really problematic if you get to the morning and your car, instead of being charged, it discharged into the house, and then you're sort of, okay, now I can either drive or use the battery to power my house. I think it's actually going to be better for people's freedom of action to have a power wall and a car separate. and you add that, you basically combine that with solar, either solar retrofit or solar glass roof, and local battery storage. So you basically become your own utility. That said, like we can certainly do vehicle to grid. I think we could basically enable that with software in Europe or something, right?
Yeah, we are future generations of power electronics. We will be able to do this more or less everywhere from a like energy market participation perspective, but yeah, from a backing up the house, and it just so happens that the way the North American connectors are on all the cars in North America, it doesn't matter whether it's the Tesla connector or the connector that the other vehicles have, doesn't actually support powering your home. It's unfortunate. So you'd need an additional hardware to do that.
I'll buy that connector. Whatever I gotta do to do that, I am more than willing to try, especially if I get that battery pack from the Cybertruck.
Of our vehicles will be able to at least do bidirectional power flow for the purposes of energy market participation. But even for that, it's important to remember that your car isn't plugged in 24/7. So it's kind of an unpredictable resource for the grid. It'll have a value, but it's not the same as a stationary battery pack. How do we find the engineers to do everything we're saying?
How do we find the engineers to do all these things? I guess we recruit a lot of engineers from all parts of the world. I think Tesla has a good reputation for doing exciting engineering, and that tends to attract a lot of the top engineers in the world, because they know that their efforts at Tesla will really serve the greater good, and we're super hardcore about engineering. Tesla is like first and foremost an engineering company. It's like hardcore engineering is what we do. And if you look at, say, there's various surveys done of engineering schools, where do you want to go? Like, what's your top choices? And actually, the top two choices last few years have been Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah, I mean, if you are motivated to solve some of these problems, which are the hardest problems in the world to solve, that really fundamentally enable the future we all need, please reach out.
Yeah, and
help us work on these problems.
Absolutely, and like you said, the battle is far from over. Less than 1% of the global automotive fleet has been converted to electric, and even maybe less than 0.1% of stationary storage has been done. So there's still a massive amount of engineering work to be done at Tesla and other companies to accelerate this transition to sustainability.
So you've talked about the importance of the factory, and you've mentioned the ground-up design process and a lot of the new things that you're going to be doing or started to do in Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin. Can you just maybe help us understand and quantify like how financially meaningful all of those improvements will be? And then given what you're trying to accomplish as a company, is it fair to assume that the vast majority of improvement will be given back to the customer in the form of lower prices?
We'll try to give back as much as possible to the customers. It's not like, it's not like Tesla's profitability is crazy high. Our average profitability for the last 4 quarters is like maybe 1%. Just to be clear, it's not like we're minting money. Our valuation makes it seem like we are, but we're not. We do want to try to make the price as competitive as we can without like losing money. And if you lose money, then if you keep losing money, you'll just die. So we have to. This thing called profit is just like we need to bring in more money than we spend, otherwise we're dead. So.
But affordability is key to how we scale,
Yeah.
right? Like the demand goes nonlinear as you reduce the price of the car.
Make the cars affordable so that more people can have them. But you got to do this in line with your production rate. You can expect more price cuts as Tesla's volume increases. Should their demand exceed their capacity to produce, you can expect the prices to go up.
Yeah, it's important to sort of separate the difference between affordability and value for money, or desirability of the product. So, for a lot of people, they want to buy a Tesla, they simply don't have enough money. We could make the car infinitely desirable, but if somebody does not have enough money, they can't buy it. You have to have enough money to buy the car. And just making a car super desirable but expensive does not mean they can afford it. So it's absolutely critical that we make cars that people can actually afford.
When do you expect Tesla vehicles to beat ICE vehicles on initial purchase price? I think a way to answer that question is, in the classes of vehicles we sell today, we're already doing that.
Yeah, we're already pretty close. Factoring in total cost of ownership, and the fact that electric vehicles require much less servicing, and are way cheaper to run. When you look at like total cost of ownership, and you can obviously lease a car. So if you just like lease a car or get a loan for a car, you've got your sort of monthly payment, and then your cost for either gasoline or electricity, and your cost of servicing. And the fully considered cost of an electric car is much less than a gasoline car of the same nominal purchase price. Said in like maybe on the order of 3 years, when we can do lower cost like a $25,000 car, I think that will be basically on par, maybe slightly better than a comparable gasoline car. So I think maybe it's on the order of 3 years ish.
Sure. I just want to reiterate the fact that this is a massive problem,
Massive problem.
and it seems like Tesla's on its way and ahead, but we need everybody's help because it's everybody's planet, and we're not going to get to 20 terawatt-hours by ourselves.
Tesla can't do this by themselves. They'll lead the charge, no problem, but it's going to require everyone's efforts to make this successful. That's all I have for you today. Professor Hustle's office hours are in the comments below. Be easy. Peace.